Okay, peace and welcome to this video, which is a brief overview of the black population in Britain, in the United Kingdom. This is for the information, particularly of those who were not in Britain, our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world, especially the States, where you probably don't hear too much about us over here in the UK. So I just want to give you a quick overview. So, first of all, how many black people are there in Britain? Well, according to the 2001 census, the population of the UK was 59 million people. 59 million people live in Britain according to the 2001 census. Of that 59 million, only about 1.1 million of us are black people, so-called black people. So it's quite a low number, low percentage when you compare it to places like the USA and Brazil and even Colombia, Ecuador, places like this. The population here in the UK is very low, just 2%. Now, of that population, of that just over 1 million black people who are in Britain, the overwhelming majority of us live in London. That's where I live. And yeah, I believe it's around about 1 million of the 1.1 million people in Britain live in London. Okay, most of those live in places like the boroughs of Southwark, Newham, Lambeth, Lewisham, Hackney, Brent, Haringey, and these places, which are, when you look at the map, these are mainly inner city areas of London, and that's where the majority of black people live. Also, there's quite big populations in the other main cities of Britain, such as Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Wolverhampton, Bristol. Now, where do we come from? Well, the black population in Britain can be split basically in half between those whose recent origins are in the Caribbean, and those whose recent origins are in Africa. The first large-scale black immigration to Britain was from the Caribbean, and you can call the first wave, or the main wave, was known as you could call the Windrush generation. This is named after a boat that was that brought a few hundred brothers and sisters from the Caribbean in 1948. It docked in Tilbury in Essex, which is just to the east of London, and that's seen as like the kind of the starting point of large-scale black immigration to the UK. And they mainly did jobs like nursing, bus driving, and manual kind of jobs. They experienced a lot of hostility to begin with, from their hosts nations, so they had to struggle to try and find places to live because of the common no blacks, no dogs, no Irish rules. Also, there was hostility from young white people, which helped to kick off riots. Some riots in Notting Hill and Nottingham. Those are kind of the first post-war race riots, really, in the UK. Their children, the second generation of these Windrush newcomers, their children now experienced a different kind of reality because they were born here in the UK. They were British citizens, unlike their parents, a lot of them were thinking of going back after a few years, returning to the Caribbean. These young people were not looking to go back. All they knew was the UK, and they wouldn't, what would be the point of them going to the Caribbean? And so they were here, and they experienced a lot of hostility in the 70s. The economic downturn led to a lot of unemployment, which hit them hardest. There was a lot of discrimination in the workplace, a lot of discrimination from the police, a lot of hostility and violent, oppression basically from the police, the stop and search laws, and also there was a lot of activity among far-right fascist groups, most notably the National Front and also the British movement, which helped to stir up attacks against black communities. These brothers and sisters were not looking to just sit down and shut up, though, and so there was a lot more militancy in the 70s. The Rastafari movement was, quite influential in giving a kind of a language to these people to express their concerns, and also obviously the Black Power movement in the U.S. was very influential, and so you had a lot of quite a bit of militancy among black youths in the 70s. You also had the riots, the summer riots from the mid-70s all the way through to the early 80s. Riots kicked off in Brixton, in Handsworth, in Birmingham, St Paul's, Bristol, Toxteth, Liverpool. Basically, people kicking off, but burning down their own communities, unfortunately. But, they were burning and looting and attacking the police and fighting the police, all kind of out of the frustration and the boredom and the dissatisfaction or disaffection that was their reality, really, in the 70s. Now, from the late 70s and then through the 1980s, there was a new wave of large-scale black immigration, which was not coming really from the Caribbean this time, but was coming from Africa. And this is when, for example, me and my family came here. We came from Uganda via Kenya in the late 70s, mainly because of the turmoil that was going on in Uganda at that time. And then also, the majority of these immigrants were from Nigeria and from Ghana. All of these countries were ex-British colonies, and and we started coming over here in large numbers throughout the 80s. And I remember when I was younger, I remember that it was not cool at all to be African, and not cool to have an African accent. It weren't really a good thing that your parents spoke with an African accent. And that's what it was like, sadly, in the 80s, at least to begin with, for us coming here in the UK. And I'm talking about hostility from the Caribbeans, from the existing black communities. There was, it took a while for us to kind of begin to kind of work together and be seen as one. But I think it's happened. But yeah, so 1980s, you had the immigration from Africa, Nigeria, Ghana being the main two places. In the 1990s now, you started to have people coming over from Somalia, who added a whole new kind of perspective, because they weren't like they were Muslim for a start. They were from their worldview was quite different, very distinctive. They didn't speak English as their first language, and I'd like to make some videos about the whole issue of Somalians and their relationship with the wider black community. But yeah, you had people coming from Somalia, and also from places like Zimbabwe, because of the turmoil, the economic, political problems there, and also from places like Congo as well, because of the war that was going on there. Immigrants and asylum seekers coming from these places. And as I say today, the black population of the UK can be basically split evenly between black Caribbean and black African. And that's it. That's a very quick overview of the black population in Britain, and I hope it's useful to some people.